Hello everyone, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel. I am here to do the progress report for all of my May currently inked pens. Let's get straight to it. The first pen and ink combination was my Pelikan M1000 with a now needlepoint nib with Linen Toolbar Sesame Oil. This was a lovely combo. Wonderful flow out of the nib and the ink shades beautifully. But it's not an ink that I will need a bottle of. I'm happy that I just had a sample and I've used it. So I gave the ink an 8, the flow a 10, and the comfort level of the Pelikan M1000 a 10. It's actually a really lovely pen in the hand. It's got a good weight to it, and I don't need any other M1000s because this was an expensive pen. But now I'll show you, if it's dried yet, my Hobonichi A6 Hone. This is actually from 2024. Let's zoom out a bit. And you'll be able to see that every ink I did a paper swatch or different paper swatches. And then I did a Zentangle. So I'm also journaling. I'm journaling with the ink, I'm writing my work notes with the ink, and then for extra fun, I do the comparisons on paper, and then I do the Zentangle as well as paint the rows. And what I like about this is that it's such a milky type of brown. It reminds me a little bit of, what is it, the one that reminds me of? And I'm not going to remember it. I feel like it's similar to Ferris Wheel Press Oyster Hour, but maybe not. But look at how different it looks on the different papers. On the Aerofil paper, it looks very similar to the Tomoe River paper, very saturated. And then not so much on the Yamamoto bank or the bank or even the onion skin. It looks like more of the saturation is happening on the Tomoe River paper and the Aerofil. But look at how pretty the Zentangle is. Oh my gosh, I just finished work and I'm filming this and my brain is a little bit like, wow. All right, so that is my Pelikan M1000 with Linen Toolbar Sesame Oil. The next pen and ink combination is my Walltown pens in the Onslow model, and this is in the Strata Quartz, and this has an extra fine nib. This is actually the 2023 San Francisco Pen Show nib from Kirk Spear, and this has Diamine Blue Black English Milk Tea. I hate to say it, but I kind of found this brown to be a little bit meh. Maybe it's because I already have so many beautiful browns. I don't need a bottle of this, but the pen and ink worked beautifully together. So I gave the ink a 7, the flow a 9, and the comfort level of the Walltown Onslow a 9. But also, can we just take a look at the Strata Quartz in this? Such a beautiful pen. I have 3 pens in this Strata Quartz resin. I do not think I need any more because I have this one. Oh, so excited. I'm still excited about this pen. I remember when I did purchase it, I needed to have Ninja Fingers to purchase it because I love this combination. Okay, let's take a look at my A6 Hobonichi Hone. All right, so here we have Diamine English Milk Tea. And I didn't find it that different from sesame oil. I feel like sesame oil is maybe, actually, it's hard to say. I feel like maybe there's a little more yellow in the English milk tea, but if you're using an extra fine nib, oh yeah, there's a little bit of difference because this one has a little bit more flow. So this looks a little bit darker, but that also could be due to maybe some evaporation issues. But again, it's a brown. I don't feel like I need this in a bottle or this in a bottle. It's a beautiful ink, but I don't need all of the brown inks. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to be good. But look at the difference here. It looks so much more yellow on the onion skin, the Yamamoto bank, and the bank paper, and definitely darker, more saturated on the Aerofil and the Tomoe River paper. And then look what happens when you add just a little bit of water to that. And that's one of the reasons why I do the rose, is looking at the effects of the water on there. And then I really liked using the extra fine nib for this Zentangle because of all those lines. So that is my Walltown Watts in the Onslow model in Strata Quartz with Diamine Blue Black English Milk Tea. The next pen and ink combo is my TWSBI Eco in cream rose gold with a fine nib, and this has Sailor Irimeko Kitsune Biori. This was a fantastic combination. I love this ink and how it transforms as it dries. It is absolutely gorgeous. So I gave the ink a 10, the flow of the ink a 10, and the comfort level of the TWSBI Eco an 8. I know for me that the TWSBI Eco is not my most comfortable pen, but I have actually gotten used to it. It's good for maybe half a page in an A5 for me, but not long writing sessions for more than a page or so. But I love how you can see the ink swishing around in there. There's still a lot of ink in here, and I'll probably keep this ink until I use it all up, or I may empty this into a sample vial because I don't have a lot of Kitsune Biori left, so I want to preserve what I have here. So let's take a look at my Hobonichi A6 Hone. How cool does this ink look? I mean, I love that when it goes down, it looks brown and then it goes into this beautiful dusty pink. But then when you compare it to other dusty pink inks, it looks brown. So it goes in both categories for me. But I love all of the chroma shading that's happening in the Tomoe River paper here. And then even on the Aerofil paper, more there. But on the Bank, Yamamoto Bank and Onion Skin, and even in the Rhodia, it stays mostly pink. And then it looks more burnt brown pink down here. And I love the way that this Zentangle looks. I feel like the shading properties really come out with the larger nibs or the wetter nibs. And the fine nib on this TWSBI Eco, gosh, my words, TWSBI Eco is perfect for this. So that is my TWSBI Eco with Sailor Shikiori Kitsune Biori. The next pen and ink combination is my Leonardo Momento Zero Grande 2.0 in Angel Skin, and this is inked with Le Bon Aphrodite. This is a really wonderful combination. I feel like the two really complement each other, but I feel like there may have been some evaporation happening here. But overall, I loved using this. So I gave the ink a 10, the flow a 9, only because there was some evaporation happening, and the comfort level of the Momento Zero Grande 2.0 a 9. I feel like I wouldn't have said that about the comfort level of this when I first got it, but now I feel like I'm more accustomed to larger pens for comfort level. So let's take a look at my A6 Hone. This one turned out so beautifully. It definitely looks darker in the Zentangle versus the ink swatches, but I really love this ink. And I also love how the rose has the different tones. So when you add water to the ink, definitely lighter. And then I just added some more ink on top of that after it dries, and you get that wet on dry effect. I had to figure out what that was. I really liked this Zentangle. Actually, this one was a fun one to do, and I had no issues with the ink keeping up with that. But yeah, Le Bon Aphrodite, a really good pink ink, one that's not in your face, but still you know that it's pink. So that's my Momento Zero Grande 2.0 with Le Bon Aphrodite. The next pen and ink combination is my Zodiac Penco in the Cancer model in the primary manipulation light. And I received this last year from Bart. And I put the San Francisco Pen Show 2024 model, 2024 nib on this. And it's got an extra fine imperial grind on it. This is such a fun nib to use. You basically get two styles in one. And this ink is stunning. It's one of the first inks that I ever purchased, but the pen may not fully seal, which is why you get such dark writing to begin with. So I gave the ink a 10 because it's gorgeous, but I gave the flow an 8 due to possible evaporating, and the comfort level of the pen an 8. Out of all the models of Zodiac pens, the Cancer model may not be the most comfortable for me just because I feel that middle part, I don't know, makes me grip it differently, but it's still a beautiful pen, and I will definitely be keeping this because, well, one, it took Bart a few tries to find a completed resin that I like, but two, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I will live with the slight discomfort. So let's go to my Hone. And how gorgeous is this ink? It's pink, it's purple, or it's lilac. but I love the way that it looks on these papers, and just look at how it looks on the onion skin Yamamoto bank and the bank, and then the shading that you get. And then on the Tomoe River paper, there's a little bit of chroma shading happening here. But I really loved doing this Zentangle with this Imperial nib, because on one side, the extra fine almost feels like an extra fine cursive smooth italic, and then the other side is like a medium or a broad. So you get those variations in the line strokes. It was a really fun Zentangle to do with this nib. So that is my Zodiac Penco Cancer model in the primary manipulation light with Sailor Shikiori Yozakura. Next, we have my just turnings in the pastel primary manipulation. I'm just comparing this pastel primary manipulation to the primary manipulation light. Jonathan Brooks no longer does the pastel primary manipulations, and there was so much variation between these. My friend Katie and I got pastel primary manipulation pens at around the same time from two different makers, and hers looks so different to mine. I like more of the white light swirls, and then whereas this one I still have all of that light, but also it's quite matte. I'm not sure what Jonathan Brooks did to, one, stop the production of this one, but two, then create this one. So anyway, just showing you the comparisons between the two. And this is inked with Van Diemen's Hastings Cave. This is a really lovely, legible yellow shimmer ink, but it's not one that I feel I need a bottle of. I may not actually even keep the sample. It's a pretty ink though. I gave the ink an 8. I gave the flow a 10 because it flowed perfectly out of this extra fine Architect nib. And then I gave the comfort level of the Just Turnings pen an 8. So there are the swatches on the paper, and I'm really interested to see that the Tomoe River paper and the Aerofil and even the bank have edges that look a little green. That's really, really interesting, but it does look more orange with that shimmer there. And then when I did the Zentangle, the shimmer was very consistent throughout, but from my view, it looks more orange than it does yellow. It's not an ink that I'll probably end up keeping, but I'm so glad that I tried it anyway. So that's my Just Turnings Pastel Primary Manipulation with Van Diemen's Hastings Cave. The next pen and ink combination is my Pelikan M800 in the brown black, and this is inked with Van Diemen's Aria. The ink is similar to Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho. It was actually one of the inks as part of that exploration. This has great flow. It's very pretty, but it's not one I feel like I need a bottle of. So I gave the ink a 9, the flow a 10, and the comfort level of the Pelikan M800 a 9. I'm really glad that I got to try this past the Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho exploration. I thought it was a really good ink, but definitely not one that I need to have as part of my collection. But let's go into my A6 Hone. So there is the Zentangle and the different effects and swatches on the different papers. I mean, I really do like the complexity that it has on the Tomoe River paper, and it looks more yellow on the Yamamoto bank, the bank, and even on the onion skin, and then it looks more beigey brown on these ones. When I do this, you can see how different this is from Inaho, but then when you do the Zentangle or any writing sample, they do look similar too, but it's not one that I feel like I need a full bottle of. So that is my Pelikan M800 with Van Diemen's Aria. The next pen and ink pairing is my Waterman Carene in Sea Green Shimmer, and this has Tacha Uguisu Olive. I remember why I love this ink. This is a stunning green. It's really well behaved, and it flows so well out of this fine nib on the Waterman Carene. I gave the ink a 9 because it is stunning, and that little bit of sheen doesn't bother me. The flow is perfect. I like an average or above average flow, and the comfort level of the Waterman Carene a 9. So here I am in my A6 Hobonichi Hone, and I have tried this ink before, but I'm so glad to see the comparisons on the different papers, because look at how different it looks on the Regalia and the Aerofil, and then the bank papers. The most similar to the swatch on the Tomoe River paper is the onion skin, funny enough, and then Rhodia has no complexity to it. It just looks green. And then the Yamamoto bank and bank look like it's got a bit more yellow coming out, whereas the Regalia and the Arofa look like it's leaning more towards teal, which is really interesting. And then in the Zentangle, I love that you can see the darker parts here. The shading comes out really well in the Zentangle. And then I just had to do my lovely little rose in the corner. So that is my Waterman Carene Sea Green Shimmer with Tasha Ugu Isu Olive. The next pen and ink combination is my Narwhal Nautilus in Turquoise Dream. This is an Atlas exclusive that I actually got in their experienced pen sale. And this is inked with Diamine Soft Mint. I mean, isn't that a perfect match? This is the perfect pen and ink combo. I mean, look at how well it matches. It's a really smooth nib, no flow issues, although I did have some burping when I was flying with this pen. And this ink has gorgeous shading. So I gave the ink a 9, the flow a 9, and the comfort level of the Narwhal a 9. There are the paper comparisons. I don't see too much difference actually between all of the different papers, which is good. But I like how it shades just so beautifully in the just different pools of ink there. Really beautiful. And then even when I was doing the Zentangle, you could see the areas that have a little bit more ink. It just shades beautifully, this ink, and it behaves so well. And I never thought that I would go for a turquoise type of pen, but I'm really happy with this, especially since with my original Tromso, I said that I was never going to buy another Narwhal, and then I saw this one, and then I bought it. All right, so that is my Narwhal Turquoise Dream with Diamine Soft Mint. Next, we have my Le Bon 325 in Cambridge, and this has a medium stub nib, and it has Colorverse Witch by Starlight. These two were a lovely combination, but the medium stub is now feeling too broad for my writing. And I'm considering, I don't know, changing this nib out or something. But I love the color of the swatch of this ink, but it's actually too blue-black or dark in writing. So I gave the ink a 7 because it's pretty, but that prettiness doesn't translate to the writing. The flow a 9 and the comfort level of the Le Bon 325 a 9. So back in my A6 Hone, did I say Stroke Colorverse by, wait, hold on. I said Stroke of Midnight, but then here I said Colorverse Witch by Starlight. What did I, oh my gosh. What did I actually use? I am now so confused. Did I use Witch by Starlight or Stroke of Midnight? What the heck? Because those two swatches look different. I swatched Stroke of Midnight on here, but what's actually in the pen is Colorverse Witch by Starlight. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, ignore that and actually ignore this. Just look at the Zentangle, which is beautiful, but it looks just blue-black, which is not something that I'm a big fan of. I can't believe I did that. I cannot believe that I did that. So I'm just going to write here, should be Colorverse Witch by Starlight. Oh my goodness. What was wrong with me? Although, like, look at how similar they look. Look at how similar they look. And maybe it was a mistake that I was meant to make. I mean, the swatches look different, but the writing to this still looks very similar. So I don't know. Not something I'll keep. It's a beautiful ink here, but it's not something that I will necessarily need. Oh my gosh. Okay, I can't believe I made that mistake. Sorry, guys. So that is my Le Bon 325. Ignore this. And that is Colorverse Witch by Starlight. The next pen and ink combination is my Esterbrook SD Lilac in an extra fine nib with Diamine Memory Lane. Isn't that another beautiful, perfect match? This was a stunning pair. No flow or shimmer issues in this extra fine nib. And I know a lot of people don't like to use shimmers and extra fines, but I always do. And this is a gorgeous purple. I gave the ink a 10 because I love this ink. The flow an 8. It could have been a little wetter. And comfort level a 10. I love this combination. Perfect match. Really, just, it looks so good. I didn't get a chance to use it as much as I would have liked to, but I really love this tone of purple. I mean, look at the chromo shading on the Tomoe River paper mixed with that shimmer. It's just, Chef's kiss, love it. And then the way that it looks on these different papers, I really like the kind of lighter mauve on the Regalia paper as well. But then on the Zentangle, the shimmer is generally consistent throughout, except for maybe that last row, but that's because I'd probably been using the pen for about 15-20 minutes. So I needed to agitate the pen in order to get that shimmer to get more evenly distributed. But look at this lovely rose, adding a little bit more of that ink on top once it's dried. So the wet on dry technique, love it. Probably my favorite combination of the month is my Esterbrook Lilac with Diamine Memory Lane. And last but not least, my Leonardo Momento Zero in Winter Sunrise, inked with Robert Oster Muddy Wine. I loved this pair, although the shading wasn't too evident in the extra fine nib, but the flow was perfect and the nib is so smooth. I gave the ink an 8 because I would have liked a little bit more shading in the ink. Flow is a 10, but the comfort level is a 9. I love this page. I think this was a perfect pen and ink match. I really love how the Muddy Wine matches the darker areas of Winter Sunrise. Really, really beautiful pairing. But this was also a really fun Zentangle. And what I love about this pen is that this extra fine nib is so smooth. Paired with this ink, it had that above average flow. Really, really lovely pair. Although in the writing, you don't see as much shading as I would have liked, which is why I marked the ink down a little bit. It's not an ink that I feel like I need in my collection because it feels really similar to another one. Feels very similar to Tasha Ume Murasaki. This one is a little bit more pink, but they feel very similar that I don't need a bottle of Muddy Wine. Muddy Wine also is a little bit darker, whereas I like the more pink of the Tasha Ume Murasaki. So that is my Leonardo Momento Zero Winter Sunrise with Robert Oster Muddy Wine. So there are all of my pen and ink combinations and my thoughts for the month. Really, my favorite was probably the Esterbrook SD with Diamine Memory Lane. I can't believe I made that mistake with Colorverse Switch by Starlight, but I felt like it really, the medium stub is now, I feel, too broad for me, and it's not something that I was really reaching for. I loved the TWSBI Eco with Sailor Yurimeku Kitsune Biori. Oh, did I say Shikiori? It's Sailor Yurimeku Kitsune Biori. Really great combo. And then with these two, the sesame oil and then the English milk tea, they're great, but I didn't reach for them as much as I wanted to. So really, my favorite was probably, or not was probably, but was the Esterbrook SD and then the TWSBI Eco. And then I could kind of, leave or take these ones. And then probably my least favorite was that Le Bon 325. But now let's do my, what did Grace call it? Her end of month, not even the progress update, but just the state of her collection. Okay, so looking at the state of my collection, let's look at inks first. Well, inks, and then we'll look at samples. So there were a few samples that were, I guess, brought into my collection or ordered or gifted this month, but I haven't counted them to my overall total until I've actually swatched them. So they're kind of just sitting here waiting to be swatched. But the samples that where am I here? The samples that I purchased in the month of May, I had purchased 7, and then I was gifted 3. Again, this is not counting anything that has come in and that I haven't swatched yet. And then samples that I used or gave away was 10. So then my total number of samples is currently sitting at 71, which is equal to the previous month. Then my ink bottle, my inks in my bottles purchased was 1 at the San Francisco Pen Show, and then bottles gifted, so that's from Wearingool and from Amarillo Stationery, 9, and there were none that were used or given away. So my total number of bottles is currently sitting at 76, which is an increase of 10. from last month. And then we'll move this up a bit. If we go to my pens, so pens purchased, this is a big number. I purchased 6 pens this month. Let me see here. Was I gifted any that I count towards my collection? So yes, I was gifted the Aspine V126, so I would count that as one. And then any that I sold, I did not sell any this month. So my total number is now at 55. However, the thing with that number is that the numbers that I don't, or the pens that I don't count towards that are the Jinhao 10s, because I kind of use them as just a throw in the purse pen. They're not normally in my rotation. And I normally wouldn't count the Aspine V126 or the next Aspine that I'm going to be reviewing, but because it is in the rotation this month, I am going to include it in my numbers. So those are my numbers for the month of May. And how many did I go up since last month? I went up 7 pens. But since the pen show, I haven't done any more purchasing, and I probably don't plan on doing any more purchasing of pens until the next pen show, which is the Pacific Northwest Pen Show. And one of the reasons that I'm leaving my purchases specifically from American vendors or makers for pen shows is because, one, it saves me on shipping, and 2, saves me on customs fees. Okay, that is all of May for me. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching and have yourselves a great day.